Okay, so I've had the chance to play a bit of the first Descendant, and this is a free third-person RPG shooter game. The story begins 100 years ago when the world was invaded by the Vulgus, described as the malevolent race who conducted complete decimation and began experimenting on humans. Shortly after, the world was invaded by the Colossi, to which the destruction continued. You play as a Descendant, created with the help of the remaining humans on Earth and the Magisters, a group of technologically advanced beings. They found an archegene in humans which was a DNA strand capable of unlocking potential with no bounds. This culminated into the Descendants, superhumans with physical and magical abilities that would be used to defeat the Volgai and the leader, who goes by Corel. He's introduced at the very start of the game. I can't comment on him too much as I haven't finished the story yet, but I thought his appearance alone was good. On sight, he appears much larger and clearly exhibits his brute strength along with a telekinesis-like ability. Accommodating that with his black and red armor and the scars, it does make him look like somewhat of a menacing villain. So design-wise, whilst it may seem generic to some, I thought the developers did well with him. The game launched on a Tuesday, kind of a weird day for gaming, but can be seen as beneficial. Launch days are usually a bit dodgy. You get the typical server issues, queues, bugs, which can make playing a bit daunting, but I tried this on day one and ran into no server or connection issues, which could be explained by the working day launch. There's bound to be less players than normal, so the servers can hack it for the time being. Okay, so quick note, I stand corrected. As of editing this video, the servers were actually down on the 3rd of July for pretty much most of the day, and I also heard that Xbox players were unable to log into their accounts the day before, so I can imagine their frustration of not being able to play for almost 2 days. Everything seems to be fine now though, but since it's a new game, I kind of expected this to happen. People were saying it was because of the high influx of players or that it was linked to the Xbox outage since they're running on Microsoft servers, but at least that's happened now. Had it been the weekend, it would have been jarring for so many people. However, people have also been saying they weren't able to get their Twitch drops and free items from the PlayStation Store. I haven't linked my account, so I can't test the Twitch one, but I tried the PlayStation Plus package and I can't find it anywhere. People on Reddit said to try the inbox in the shop, but nothing pops up for me. I guess I'll just have to wait, but they at least gave us some free compensation items for the server issues we had, which is really nice of them. So if you haven't already, go and grab those. I'm kind of hoping they have more server issues in the future so we can get more free stuff.
You sure about that?
No, I'm joking, let's get back to the video. There was even an option to preload the game on the 30th of June. It was only around 30 gig or so, fairly small for a game of this caliber, and like some of you may have done, I did try and launch the game thinking I could play it early. Yeah, no, just a preload. Had to wait till Tuesday. The look of disappointment on my face was unreal here, but hey, it is what it is, we had to wait. Interestingly, the game size did increase to 64 gig or so, at least on the store page. Not sure what was meant by this, but I didn't get any pending updates, and as of now, the game still sits in my storage as 36 gig, so yeah, still a small game it seems. There are 14 Descendants that you can obtain, all of which have different backstories and abilities that make them unique. You have characters like Freyna, Blair and Valby that use poison, fire and water damage. I personally got my eye on Freyna. I really like DOT characters. There are support characters like Yujin and Enzo that supply health and ammunition. Characters like Jaber use turrets, the list goes on. And there are even ultimate variants of Descendants which have slightly enhanced abilities which prove to be better than the original. You can pick one of 3 from the start, and the one you choose will carry you through a decent chunk of the game until you unlock more. You have the choice of Ajax, Lapik and Viessa. Ajax specializes in barriers, more so protection of yourself and your allies, along with slams and knockbacks to keep enemies away. Lapik specializes in lethal grenades, nades that pull you in and increase in your own damage for a short time. And lastly, Viessa utilizes freeze attacks that debuff and slow her opponents. I ended up going with Ajax mainly because I'm playing solo currently and the shields help with survivability a bit, at least for me anyway. You get a chance to do a tutorial with your character to try out all 4 of their abilities, learn some movement and gunplay, then you're good to go. Unfortunately, the abilities will be locked again after the first tutorial mission, so you will need to rank up to re-unlock them, I should say. You'll eventually find yourself in the hub area called Albion. Now if you play Destiny, this will kind of resemble that. You've got the designated NPCs dotted around the map that provide you with information about new quests, resources and hardware that allows you to upgrade your character and weapons. To be honest, most of the characters sound like we're bothering them when we talk to them. It's kind of funny.
Just get to the point.
Like, damn bro, chill out, I'm just trying to collect a quest off you. Interestingly, I'm not sure if this is a troll or not, but I found that the Descendant instructor speaks very quickly. It doesn't actually say words, it just makes robot noises, but the subtitles go by a bit fast for me. Not sure how anyone else feels about this, but anyway. There's a mailbox which allows you to collect any items you missed after a mission, as well as any rewards you may have received. I played the beta last year and they gave me some cosmetics for doing so, which I thought was nice. Can't go wrong with free items. And of course, you can jump off Albion, not that there's any reason to, it's just again, I played Destiny Destiny for so long, it's traditional at this point. But anyway, I believe there are 8 locations outside of Albion that you can explore. As of writing this, I've just made it to Vespa, the 3rd location, and so far they're quite nice. Kingston, the 2nd location you visit, kind of reminded me a bit of the EDZ from Destiny. You've got the rocky areas, abandoned buildings, some of which are accessible for missions, as well as caves, so there is variety. The only downside is I have been getting some very poor frame drops in all of the locations I've visited. It's not unplayable as it's only temporary, but my gameplay does slow down quite a bit, and it's kind of hard to shoot enemies when it does happen. Everything looks a little crunchy. I am on PS5 and tried turning off motion blur, but that did nothing. I'm not sure if I'm the only one with this issue, hopefully not, so they can roll out some patches, but if I am, I can firm it. It's early days, performance problems are bound to happen. It's annoying, but not enough to make me stop play. On the topic of this, a nice feature is that you'll be notified of any bug fixes or changes as you're playing, but given the server issues we had this week, I'm going to keep using Twitter for more descriptive updates. Although I personally think they should change the colour of the on-screen text from red to something else. Based on the terrain you're on, it may be a little hard to see the words. In terms of the gameplay, it feels like a bit of Warframe, Outriders or Destiny if you've played any of those, maybe with a hint of The Division because of how the ammo count and health bar is displayed, just straight shooting and looting really. I'm pretty simplistic when it comes to my games. I like the feeling of gaining XP, leveling up, unlocking new items and doing it all over again. Even the guns don't have much recoil, it's an easy game to get into, there doesn't feel like there's a learning curve. I'd say you just need to know how to cycle your abilities so that it's in sync to support your passive ability and mana restoration. So even though they have cooldowns, the abilities you cast do cost mana, but this also can be restored in bigger amounts from enemy drops. Now whilst the recoil appears non-existent at times, it can make all the weapons feel the same, despite their differences in ammo types and damage output. Like if I'm firing an LMG, I don't really feel the kickback, it's just like a regular weapon. I'm not challenged to actually control it, if that makes sense, so I think to spice things up, they could adjust how each weapon category feels to diversify the gunplay a bit. I don't know, what do you guys think? Alongside leveling your character's base level, there's also a mastery rank which increases by completing missions, killing enemies, etc. But each time you rank up here, you gain other benefits like more equipment space, storage capacity, and module slots, which is pretty cool too. Weirdly though, you sort of have to activate the mastery rank back at Albion. I thought it would be automatic, but no, you have to go chill in the palm of a massive hand for a few seconds, so I suggest as soon as you rank up and finish a mission, quickly head back to the hub so you take full advantage of the XP gains so it carries over to the next rank, if that makes sense. The missions you play do get a bit repetitive. They're mostly just defending an objective, clearing out a bunch of enemies, killing enemies until they drop a specific item. That's the bulk of it, or at least that's what I was doing for like the first 5 or 6 hours. You do get the odd escort mission where you have to protect a drone whilst it scans for data, and you can do wave-based operations which slightly differ objectively based on the location you're at, as well as collecting missions where you have to hunt for these data orbs within a set time limit. I guess it's a way of allowing the player to use the movement mechanics more, like the grappling hook. A bit basic, but it's something different, you know, time away from the trigger, and they can be a little tricky when attempting to stick the landing on moving platforms, unless you want to cheese it and spam the grappling hook like I did. And nearing the end of each chapter, there's a boss battle where you take on a much tougher enemy. It's sort of like a mini raid where the boss usually has 3 phases, but they're all the same. It's quite basic actually, you just need to shoot their defense mechanisms before you can damage them again. Unfortunately, this mechanic is applied to pretty much every boss you face. It can get a bit boring. I've only seen one enemy that has a different shield with these rotating pieces that you have to shoot off, and another where their shield is based on the surrounding enemies. As for the orb ones, they're everywhere. But as repetitive as they are, these orbs do have variations to them. Some you can just shoot normally, some need to be shot in a specific order, some just regenerate instantly if you're not fast enough, so you do need to pay attention, but it does get old after a while. And on top of that, there's also these Colossus boss battles. I really like these. It sets you in an arena, kind of like an open plan like Exoprimal does in those boss rooms. There's 8 bosses, all of which are locked based on story progression, so I've only managed to fight 2 so far, but what I like about them is that it's not 100% boots on the ground. You can shoot off these weak points and grapple onto them, which makes for a nice cinematic of you holding on for dear life whilst you damage it. So that's given me some replay value at least. I really like that touch. I hope they add more of these Colossus boss battles in the future. When it comes to joining players, it's all about setting your game to private or public, and do note you can only change this before entering the location. You can't do it whilst you're there. If your lobby is set to private, you can only invite friends and no randoms will show up in your world or join missions. If public, it's the opposite. You'll usually end up in a lobby full of players, and if you start a mission, there's a high chance others could join you too. It's almost seamless. You just start up a mission, and if people are close by, they'll join you. And if that doesn't work, you can just call in a support request from the pause menu. For the life of me, I could not complete this one defense mission. I kept getting overwhelmed, but using this method I managed to get someone to join me and help me finish it. So there's a couple ways to go about it, and I like it because for solo players you're never made to feel completely alone. You can always jump into a mission with randoms with minimal effort. No waiting for a lobby to fill, just seamless matchmaking. Although you may have to wait a moment or two for someone to join you if your lobby's actually empty, but usually it's not too long. And the game has just come out, so finding someone to play with isn't difficult. Also, when you complete a mission, you can view a stats section which contains a lot more detail on the game you had. This isn't new, The Division does this with their missions as well, but I think it's especially useful when managing your builds. You can see what's working, what isn't, am I doing enough damage, do I need more fire or toxic resistance, etc. With each area you unlock, you can only progress to a new section of the map once you've completed all the activities in that area. It's a little different compared to what other games do, but of course this limits exploration since you have to beat every mission to gain full access to the map basically. However, I do like how each location has its own base of operations. When you fast travel between areas, there's a spot where you can replenish ammo and store items, so if you're a hoarder like me, you can easily drop some stuff in the storage box without having to dismantle it, or fast travel back to Albion. You can stay in your preferred location and keep farming items until your storage fills up. The world drops contain an assortment of weapons that have different ammo types, as well as modules that can be applied to weapons or your character to boost things like health, defense, skill duration, ammo capacity, fire rate. So there are some things you can hunt for to sync well with your chosen character, as well as ultimate weapons. You know, they have their own unique abilities which will complement certain descendants based on their strengths as well. I think it's a bit more simplified compared to Destiny and The Division, but it does make it easier, especially for people new to this type of looter shooter. Most of the drops you get are strictly for missions, but there are a few open world resource boxes, hidden items and echoes containing lore if you want to learn more about a location. So it's not completely empty, there are some things littered around the area, it's just focus would be on farming, replaying missions until you get the item you want, which sounds like a headache if luck ain't on your side, but as a free game, if they can't get your money, they'll charge a lot for your time instead. Now you're all probably wondering, what about microtransactions? Well, as of writing this script, I'm 10 hours in and I haven't felt the need to contemplate buying currency yet. They do have a battle pass, and if you're rocking the free to play option, you only get 23 out of the 100 items from there, which is kind of expected really. Most of the stuff is cosmetic. However, there are a few items in the pass which appear useful for crafting, so it could be seen as pay to win in that regard. Although I think the biggest concern is unlocking the other Descendants, because with this game, whenever you craft something or unlock an item, it doesn't drop for you straight away. It takes time to generate. Once you get all the necessary components, you need to pay a whopping 400,000 coins, which I believe is 4 times the amount compared to the original starting price in the beta. And even with all this to hand, you have to wait an additional 16 hours for the Descendant to be created. Luckily, this is not in-game time, it's real-world time, so typically, your crafted Descendant should be ready after 1 sleep. Obviously, you can speed it up by spending real money, but I'm not trying to do that. This game is made by Nexon, and I've been hearing that they can be quite aggressive with their microtransactions, so I'm going to try to see how far I can get before I feel inclined to pay for something. If anything, I'm only worried about the Descendants since they will take the longest to complete. I even heard on Reddit that it took a player nearly 30 hours to get all the components for an ultimate Descendant, so the grind is definitely real with this one, which could be seen as a positive and part of the endgame stuff. It will be something to do once you've beaten the game, but 20 to 30 hours for a single character sounds mad. This process takes me back to Adventure Quest Worlds, a game I played over 11 years ago now. The farming process was long, and apologies, this example is not going to sound accurate for anyone who still plays it, but basically, to unlock a rare item, as a first step, you'd have to get 50 tainted gems. Those gems can be acquired from merging 30 bone crust or dust along with 3 hidden letters, but you can only get 1 bone dust after killing a boss 5 times in a row, and for the 3 hidden letters, you can only get 1 per week from an NPC that has a 50% chance to spawn every Wednesday between 1 and 2 PM, or some bullshit like that.
What the hell are you talking about?
Not accurate in the slightest, but I remember doing a quest like this that asked for 6 different items which each had 5 steps to them. It was ruthless. I mean, as a kid I had no priorities then, but I could only play weekends most of the time, so I spent weeks on this sort of stuff. And on top of that, I'm pretty sure the quest could only be obtained from like a special sword pet or something, but that was only available to players who had a paid membership. So all I remember is lobby hopping until I found a player with that sword, but you get the idea. These games are meant to rinse you for your time. I kinda hope it's not as extreme when unlocking Descendants. If it is, so be it. I've done this sort of thing before and I'd be happy to challenge myself again, but because I'm older now, I don't know how much patience I'll have, to be honest. I guess we just gotta wait and see how it goes. In short though, for anyone thinking about playing this game, I'd say give it a try since it's free. It doesn't hurt to try it out. Now if you want to spend money on cosmetics and speeding up processes, but you're a bit cautious doing so, you can hold off for a few weeks until we get a clear roadmap of what the developers intend to do with the game going forward. If you then decide it's worth putting more hours in, I don't see why not. Some cosmetics do look tempting, and well, if you want to get your Descendants faster, that's calm as well. I have seen some of the Steam reviews. It's kind of mixed at the moment. Some people just don't like the game, fair enough, but other complaints I've seen is about the price of an Ultimate Descendant, which is £80 or $100. Now I agree, that's kind of insane, that's mad, but hey, all I'll say is whether you're free to play or paying, as long as you enjoy the game, that's what matters. I may post an update video in a few weeks to give a more nuanced view on this whole grinding situation, but yeah, that's all I had to say. For anyone playing this game, which Descendant did you pick and how are you finding it? And also, what Descendant are you most excited to unlock? Let me know down in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed. It's been Dre, take care and see you next time.